So I went through the golden visa process. I'm still going through it. And it is very important to have a company on board like Global Citizen Solutions that can give you guidance as to what do you have to do, when do you apply for what. And then a big part was the properties and where do you settle down. And Patricia focused on what do we like to do, hiking, nature, and she said Sintra. Mm-hmm. And I came here in November and looked at it and loved it. It's a beautiful place. And so with that guidance, we started the golden visa process. We were able to find a house. So we did it a little bit different. We bought a house right away. And then we packed up in April and moved
Do you like this house? Tell us, is it like the perfect house for you and your dogs?
It's a beautiful house. There's no comparison between where I used to live and where I live now. Even my husband constantly mentions the quality of
your husband's here. Is he on camera?
Yeah, and how well everything is built. And that house, it's called Casa de Petra. It's even known by some people because a lot of it has been built with a stone in that area. And the most beautiful thing is it has a lap pool. And so I can go swimming, so I don't always have to go in the ocean. And the landscape was all done already. So it was ready to move in. I can eat dinner and see the ocean from our house. It's a dream come true.
Wow, it does sound like a dream.
Yeah.
And you're also close to your family in Germany,
yes? And I think that's a big factor. I think when people have a lot of family in the US and children, and I think they might be less likely to consider a more remote destination. Mm-hmm. And in our case, we didn't have that many friends and we have no children except for our 2 dogs. And they came with us. And it's an easier process because you don't have to separate from your immediate family. In our case, we actually came closer, realizing with COVID, we couldn't just visit them and say hello, especially my mom. That's not possible. And here, that's an entirely different story. If something happens to my mother, she can give me a call. I can easily travel in 3 hours. I'm there. It's a entirely different scenario.
And how about friends? Do you meet? Are you making friends there?
Slowly. We still have a lot to do. As a matter of fact, we just had dinner with our neighbors and their 2 children on Saturday.
Okay.
And I think it's just a process. I think Sintra is a little bit more isolated. In comparison to the Algarve, it's just not a destination where a lot of people live in our neighborhood. We're kind of out in the country, I would say, which we love. But I have found that whenever you need help or you don't know what to do, people have been so kind and so helpful, incredible. Yeah.
And then, so you do you travel a lot to Lisbon?
No, we actually do not. we really hang around in Sintra and explore the neighborhood. We do a lot of hiking. And like today, yes, we're going to definitely stay in Lisbon and do more. We just like the more quiet pace.
Yeah.
Because
that's what you want to, yeah.
But we just like the more quiet places. And where we can take the dogs, that's another.
And how about the language? Are you, I know that you don't have to speak Portuguese here. If you can go for, your entire life doing everything in English. But because I see you often saying a few words in Portuguese. So are you learning the language?
I'm slowly learning the language. I want to be able to speak fluent Portuguese. I used to speak fluent French, learned English, and now it's Portuguese. Because I think I want to pay my respect to the country that I live in and speak their language. That's really important.
How about you, Simon and Louise? Do you, so I'm not asking if you speak Portuguese, but if you do, yeah, say a few words. But how was your experience in the Algarve? When you decided to move, because I know you were based in North America before moving to the Algarve. Were you thinking of another destination? Were you thinking perhaps Spain before deciding on Portugal? Did you have any other, was there another destination that was ticking your bucket list?
Well, we love France, we love Europe, we love Spain. I think for us, we had a lot of friends already in Portugal. We used to come here in the 80s on villa holidays, golfing holidays before we moved to North America, and a lot of and the friends that we came with continued to come to Portugal. Some started buying places. They've got quite a few friends in this village. So for us, it was more again, more about the community, a ready-made community, ready-made group of friends. Not that we see them all the time. But it was nice having that friendship, that network already existing. And like Susanne, we've tried. We've had Portuguese lessons for a couple of years, and we're just as bad as when we first came. But I think we're getting there. We're slowly starting to understand what's being said. It's a difficult language, I must admit.
Yes,
It's,
it
we can understand it written. I was in a shop the other day, and the lady just spoke to me in Portuguese, and I answered in English. I understood everything she said, but I just couldn't get the words out to answer correctly. So it was quite funny, and she was laughing, and so was I. And it was, at least I could understand what she was saying, in that context. And the same in a restaurant, the same in shops. We can get by with a kind of mixture, but we are not good yet, and it will take us quite a while. And I'll tell you, one of the major hurdles to being any good at it is the fact that everybody in this area, I would say 99% of Portuguese people in the Algarve speak the most beautiful English. I mean, really fluent. And, they can joke and laugh and become your friend in English. So it's a bit of a deterrent to doing very well in your Portuguese classes. And we've actually lapsed at the moment. We haven't been to classes for ages, so we're feeling particularly bad. But I think we will get there eventually. This is our home now. In order to decide, when Simon said we had a lot of friends here, that wasn't just how we decided to move here. It was how we decided to buy a property here, because we used it more as a holiday home. But each holiday was quite extended. It was like 6 weeks or something like that. And it gave us a taste of what life would be like here, which we sort of found by joining clubs, sports clubs particularly.
Oh, and the local gym.
And just talking to people everywhere we go. We're used to living abroad. We've lived in different countries since our mid-20s, on and off. And, we've always had to get on with people. And, back then, we lived in France and Switzerland, and we spoke French to everyone. It was no problem. We've even learnt a bit of Spanish along the way, because we did consider going to Spain at one point. But it then sort of focused on Portugal when all these friends were buying here. And we saw what it was like. And they don't live here, most of those. They actually come and go. A bit like you were saying, you can do the 90-day visit, and then you could go away for 90 days, then you can come back for 90 days, and then go away for 90 days. So you can spend 6 months of the year here on just a basic, I can't remember what visa that's called, because they do keep changing the names of the visas. We came in like two and a half years ago, when we finally moved here as a permanent thing, and we became residents. We came in on the non-habitual residency system. And we were pre-Brexit. If Brexit had interfered, we would have been able to come in on our Canadian passports anyway, because we're Canadian citizens, so that wouldn't have mattered. But it did change things when Brexit started, and I think that's when they launched the D7, I think it's called, which that wasn't covered in our book because that's a new one since. But basically, the Portuguese government, every time something comes to destroy their plan to encourage people to come and live here, they just come up with a new way of making it easy. So they definitely want people like us from countries all over the world to come to Portugal and help their economy. And they've done some clever things like the Golden Visa program, which encourages people to invest money in businesses as well. They direct them to certain areas. So I think, and I might be wrong, but I heard recently that it's harder to get the Golden Visa now in Lisbon and Porto and the Algarve, because they're trying to encourage people to move to different areas of Portugal
you're
and
correct.
spread the benefit around the country, which, you know, is a very clever, smart move.
Yeah. And there's also the fund system. You can invest in Portuguese funds, which could be an investment to arts and culture, which you don't find in other Golden Visa programs in the EU. And I find that very clever in a way of boosting the local economy in different ways. It's not only about real estate. You can actually even invest in a wine farm fund. And yes, I agree with you. I find it very clever how they do it in Portugal. Now, we don't have much time now because we've been speaking for nearly 40 minutes, but I'm very curious. And before I'm going to ask for tips, I want to ask about Louise Padel Club. So do you